Sara's Journey, a Story of Growth and Discovery. Part 1, The Beginning, Introduction of Sara. Sara was a young girl living in a small town surrounded by green fields and quiet streets. Her home was a simple, cozy house with a red roof, nestled between two large oak trees. She lived there with her parents and her younger brother, Liam. Though they didn't have much money, Sara's family was happy. Her parents worked hard every day. Her father was a carpenter, building furniture for the people in town, while her mother worked at the local bakery, waking up early every morning to prepare fresh bread and pastries. Sara loved her family dearly, but she also had big dreams. From a young age, she knew that she wanted to do something special with her life. She wasn't sure exactly what it would be, but one thing was clear: she wanted to travel, see the world, and meet people from different places. And to do that, she needed to learn more, especially a language that everyone in the world seemed to speak, English. Every day, after school, Sara would help her mother in the bakery, mixing dough and kneading bread. While her hands were busy, her mind would wander. She would imagine herself speaking in English, meeting people from distant countries, and traveling to places like Paris, New York, and Tokyo. But when she tried to speak English, she often struggled. Her pronunciation was wrong, and she couldn't understand much when people spoke quickly. It frustrated her, but it also motivated her. Sara knew that if she could learn English well, she could make her dreams come true. At school, Sara's English teacher, Mr. Thompson, was kind but strict. He always encouraged the students to do their best, but English was a subject that many of the children found difficult, especially in a small town like theirs, where most people spoke only their native language. The lessons were often hard for Sara, and she spent many nights reading her English textbook over and over, trying to memorize new words. One afternoon, after class, Sara sat in the schoolyard, feeling both hopeful and defeated. Her friends were talking and laughing, but she couldn't join in. They spoke English easily, laughing at jokes she didn't understand. Sara felt left out. She wanted to learn so badly, but it seemed impossible at times. Her best friend, Emily, noticed Sara sitting alone and walked over to her. "What's wrong, Sara?" Emily asked, sitting down beside her. "I just can't understand English as well as you," Sara sighed, looking at the ground. "I want to speak it so badly, but it's so hard. I don't think I can do it." Emily smiled and put a hand on Sara's shoulder. "Don't worry. It takes time, but if you work hard, you can do it. You just have to practice every day. I'll help you if you want." Sara smiled back, feeling a little better. "Thanks, Emily. I really want to get better, so I can speak with everyone. I want to travel one day, and I know English will help me." Emily nodded. "You will get there. I believe in you." That evening, Sara went home and sat at her desk, determined to start again. She opened her English book and began reading aloud, focusing on the words and sounds. It was slow at first, but Sara didn't mind. She knew this was just the beginning of her journey. She made a promise to herself that she would keep trying every day, no matter how hard it got. As the days passed, Sara's determination grew. She made a plan to improve her English. Every morning, before school, she would listen to English podcasts while getting ready. During lunch, she would read short stories in English. And in the evening, after helping her mother with the bakery, she would write new words and phrases in a notebook, practicing until she felt confident. One day, as Sara was walking home from school, she overheard some students talking about an English competition. They were excited because it was an opportunity to test their skills and even win a prize. Sara had never considered entering a competition before, but something about this idea sparked her curiosity. She didn't think she was ready, but she couldn't ignore the feeling that this could be the perfect challenge for her. That night, Sara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the competition. "What if I try?" she asked herself. "What if I fail? But what if I succeed?" She felt both nervous and excited at the same time. Sara knew that entering the competition would be a big step, but she also knew that it could push her to work even harder. The next day, she told Emily about the competition. "I think I want to enter," Sara said, a little unsure of herself. Emily's eyes lit up. "That's a great idea. You should definitely do it. I'm sure you'll do great." Sara took a deep breath. She had made her decision. The competition would be her challenge, the first step toward her dream. She wasn't sure how well she would do, but she was ready to try. Part 2: The Challenge. The day Sara signed up for the English competition, she felt a mixture of excitement and fear. It was the first time she'd entered anything like this, and the thought of standing in front of judges, speaking in English, made her stomach turn. But she was determined to do her best. She knew this was a chance to improve, and she promised herself that she wouldn't give up. Sara's teacher, Mr. Thompson, noticed her dedication and was thrilled to see her enthusiasm. "Sara," he said one afternoon after class, "I'm proud of you for entering the competition. It won't be easy, but if you work hard, you'll be amazed at how much progress you can make." Sara smiled, grateful for his encouragement. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I really want to do my best." Mr. Thompson handed her a list of tips for improving her English skills. "Here are some things to focus on: reading, speaking, and especially listening. And remember, It's okay to make mistakes. They're part of the learning process. Sara thanked him and immediately began following his advice. She made a plan. Every day, she would focus on different aspects of English. Mondays and Wednesdays would be for reading and vocabulary, Tuesdays and Thursdays for listening practice, and Fridays for speaking practice with her friends. But it wasn't easy. The first time she practiced speaking in front of her family, she felt embarrassed. She stumbled over her words, her voice shaky with nerves. Her mother smiled encouragingly and reminded her, "Remember, Sara, you're just starting. The more you practice, the easier it will become." She nodded, taking a deep breath, and tried again. Over time, her confidence grew, and she felt more comfortable with each attempt. In the afternoons, Sara would often go to the library, where she could study in peace. She started reading simple English books, stories for beginners with short sentences and pictures to help her understand the context. As she turned the pages, she would write down new words in her notebook, practicing their meanings and pronunciations. One evening, she borrowed a children's storybook called The Brave Little Bird. It was about a small bird who wanted to fly to faraway places but was afraid of leaving its nest. Sara felt connected to the little bird. Just like her, the bird was scared to try something new but wanted to experience the world beyond its familiar surroundings. As Sara continued practicing, she faced new challenges. Her family needed extra help in the bakery because her mother had fallen ill with a cold. Sara took on more responsibility, helping with baking and cleaning, and sometimes staying late to close the shop. After these long days, she felt too tired to study, and she started worrying that she wouldn't be ready for the competition. One night, as Sara was washing dishes at the bakery, her brother Liam came up to her. "You're still practicing for the competition, right?" he asked, watching her with curious eyes. Sara nodded, a bit unsure. "I am, but it's so hard, Liam. I'm tired after helping here, and I feel like I'm falling behind." Liam looked at her thoughtfully. "Remember the little bird in your book? It was scared too, but it didn't give up. And you shouldn't either. You're the bravest person I know, Sara." Hearing her brother's words filled Sara with a renewed sense of hope. "Thank you, Liam. I think I just needed a little reminder." The next morning, Sara arrived early at school to ask Mr. Thompson for extra help. She explained her struggles, and he agreed to meet with her a few times a week before classes to practice speaking and listening. Together, they practiced pronunciation, and he even assigned her short English passages to read out loud. To improve her listening, Sara started watching English videos online, focusing on the way words were spoken. At first, she could only understand a few words, but she repeated each video until she could follow along. She even found some videos with subtitles, which helped her make connections between the spoken words and their meanings. In the evenings, Sara and Emily would meet up to practice speaking together. Emily was very supportive, listening to Sara's sentences and helping correct any mistakes. They would role-play conversations, with Emily pretending to be a shopkeeper or a tourist, while Sara practiced speaking in English. Each session made Sara feel a little more confident. The day of the competition grew closer, and Sara's hard work was beginning to pay off. She found herself speaking more fluently, understanding English faster, and even thinking in English sometimes. She felt proud of her progress but knew she still had a lot to learn. 1 week before the competition, Mr. Thompson organized a practice session for all the students who were participating. He gathered them in the classroom and explained that each student would present a short speech on a topic they cared about. Sara chose to speak about her family's bakery, explaining how her family worked together to keep the business running. She practiced her speech over and over, trying to remember every word. When it was her turn, Sara walked to the front of the class. Her hands were shaking, and she could feel her heart pounding. Taking a deep breath, she started her speech. Her voice was soft at first, but as she spoke about her family and their bakery, she grew more confident. She looked around the room and saw her classmates listening with interest, and she felt a wave of courage wash over her. After she finished, the class applauded. Mr. Thompson smiled and said, "Well done, Sara. That was a wonderful speech, and you spoke from the heart. You've made great progress." Sara felt a mixture of relief and happiness. She had done it. Despite her fears and struggles, she had stood up and spoken in English. For the first time, she truly believed that she was ready for the competition. The week before the big day was filled with last-minute practice sessions and preparation. Sara continued to study every night, going over her notes and rehearsing her speech. She felt a little nervous, but her determination and excitement were stronger than her fear. The night before the competition, her family gathered to wish her good luck. Her mother hugged her tightly and said, "We're all so proud of you, Sara. No matter what happens tomorrow, remember that you've already achieved something great by working so hard." Her father nodded in agreement, and Liam gave her a thumbs up. Sara smiled, feeling the support of her family and friends. She went to bed that night with a sense of peace, knowing that she had given her best effort. As she drifted off to sleep, Sara thought about the journey she had taken, from feeling nervous about speaking English to gaining the courage to stand in front of her classmates. She knew that no matter what happened in the competition, she had grown stronger and more confident. The challenge had not been easy, but she was ready to face whatever came next. Part 3: Struggles and Growth. The day of the competition was approaching quickly, and Sarah's excitement had started to mix with a heavy sense of pressure. Each day, she practiced harder, but no matter how much effort she put in, doubts crept into her mind. What if I forget my speech? What if I mispronounce words? What if the judges don't understand me? She tried to push these thoughts away, but they lingered. At home, things had become more challenging as well. Her mother's cold turned out to be more serious, and she had to take time off from the bakery to rest. This left Sara and her father to manage most of the bakery's work. Mornings were busy with baking bread and pastries, and afternoons were filled with cleaning and serving customers. By the end of each day, Sara was exhausted, barely able to keep her eyes open to study. One evening, after a long day, Sara sat at her desk, staring at her English notes. Her eyes were tired, and her mind felt blank. She tried to repeat a few sentences of her speech, but the words felt strange and foreign. She slumped down, feeling overwhelmed. Maybe I can't do this after all, she whispered to herself. Just then, her father knocked on her door and walked in. He noticed the stack of English books, the notes scribbled all over her desk, and the tired look on her face. Sitting down beside her, he said gently, "Sara, you're working so hard. I know you want to do well in the competition, but don't forget to take care of yourself." Sara sighed. "I know, Dad. It's just, I've come this far, and I don't want to let everyone down. But sometimes I wonder if I'm good enough." Her father smiled and put a hand on her shoulder. "Sara, hard work is what matters most. You've already made us all so proud by challenging yourself. Whether you win or lose, what matters is that you tried your best. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about learning and growing." His words comforted her, and she felt a bit of the pressure lift. She took a deep breath and decided to rest that evening, putting aside her notes and letting herself relax. The next morning, she woke up feeling more refreshed and determined. She promised herself that she would focus less on perfection and more on enjoying the journey. Over the following days, Sara continued to study, but she also allowed herself short breaks to recharge. She found that this balance helped her learn better, and she started to regain confidence. During her breaks, she would go for short walks or spend time with her family. Sometimes, she even read simple English poems and stories just for fun, which helped her connect with the language in a new, relaxed way. One afternoon, while Sara was practicing in the school library, she met a girl named Aisha. Aisha was also preparing for the competition, and like Sara, she was nervous. They quickly became friends, sharing their worries and helping each other with pronunciation. Sometimes, they would laugh over silly mistakes, like mixing up words or using the wrong expressions. Their shared struggles made them feel less alone, and Sara found that practicing with a friend was not only helpful but also enjoyable. As the days passed, Sara's English skills continued to improve. She found herself speaking more naturally, understanding spoken English faster, and even writing short stories for practice. She was beginning to think in English sometimes, a skill Mr. Thompson had told her would come with time and dedication. But her progress wasn't always smooth. One day, while she was practicing her speech in front of Aisha, she suddenly forgot a key part. She tried to remember, but the words wouldn't come. She felt embarrassed and frustrated, and she could feel tears forming in her eyes. Aisha reached out and gently said, "It's okay, Sara. It happens to everyone. Look, I've forgotten my speech a dozen times already. But each time, I practice and remember it better. Let's try it again, and if you forget, I'll help you." With Aisha's encouragement, Sara tried again, and this time, she made it through the whole speech without forgetting a word. She realized that making mistakes was part of the learning process, and with each mistake, she was becoming stronger and more prepared. The night before the competition, Sara sat in her room, reflecting on the journey she had taken so far. She thought about the early days of her English learning, when even the simplest sentences felt difficult, and compared it to now, when she could have full conversations and give a speech. She knew she still had a lot to learn, but she was proud of how far she had come. Her family gathered to wish her luck one final time. Her mother, still resting from her illness but feeling much better, hugged her tightly. "Sara, you've worked so hard. No matter what happens tomorrow, we're all incredibly proud of you." Her father added, "Remember, it's not about winning. It's about showing yourself what you're capable of." Even her little brother, Liam, gave her a quick hug and said, "You're going to do amazing, Sara. You've already won in my book." With her family's support and the encouragement of friends like Emily and Aisha, Sara felt ready. She went to bed that night feeling calm and grateful, knowing that she had put her heart into her preparation. The next morning, the day of the competition had arrived. As she entered the school auditorium, Sara felt a flutter of nerves, but she reminded herself of everything she had learned. She focused on her breathing, steadying herself and remembering her father's words. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about trying her best. As she waited for her turn, she watched other students go up and deliver their speeches. Some spoke confidently, while others stumbled, but each one of them received supportive applause from the audience. Watching them, Sara felt a sense of connection. They were all facing the same challenge, each of them pushing beyond their comfort zones. Finally, her name was called. Sara stood up, took a deep breath, and walked to the stage. The bright lights shone on her, and she could see the judges watching closely. Her heart raced, but she focused on the words she had practiced so many times. She began her speech, talking about her family's bakery and the lessons she had learned from her parents' hard work and dedication. As she spoke, she could feel her nerves slipping away. The words flowed smoothly, and she could see that the audience was listening intently. She even managed to make eye contact with the judges, something she had always struggled with in practice. In that moment, Sara felt confident and proud, fully immersed in her story. When she finished, there was a brief pause, and then the room erupted in applause. She could see her family beaming in the audience, and Aisha and Emily cheering her on from their seats. Sara felt a sense of accomplishment she had never felt before. She had done it, she had faced her fears and spoken confidently in English. After the competition, Mr. Thompson approached her with a proud smile. "Sara, that was wonderful. You've made incredible progress. Win or lose, you should be very proud of yourself." And she was. Although the results wouldn't be announced until later, Sara knew that she had already achieved something much more important than a prize. She had proven to herself that with hard work, resilience, and the support of loved ones, she could overcome any challenge. As she left the auditorium, Sara felt a deep sense of gratitude and joy. The competition might have been the goal, but it was the journey, filled with struggles, growth, and friendship, that had truly changed her. And she knew that this was only the beginning of her journey with English and all the dreams that came with it. Part 4: The Turning Point. The days following the competition were filled with a mix of excitement and anticipation. Sara had done her best, and now she waited to hear the results. But the most important thing was that she had faced her fears and pushed through the challenges. She had spoken confidently in English, and that was an achievement in itself. A few days later, the announcement of the competition results was made. Sara was nervous, but she reminded herself that no matter what happened, she had already gained so much. She was standing in the school hallway with her friends, Emily and Aisha, when the loudspeaker crackled to life. "Attention, everyone! The results of the English competition are now available in the main office. If you participated, please come by to see how you did." Sara felt a lump form in her throat. Her heart was pounding. Emily and Aisha smiled at her, offering their support. "We're with you, no matter what," Aisha said. Sara nodded and took a deep breath. She felt nervous but proud of the progress she had made. "I'm going to check it," she said, trying to sound confident. As she walked toward the office, her mind raced. What if I didn't win? What if I didn't even place? But then, a small voice inside her reminded her, "You've already won. You've faced your fear and learned so much. That's what truly matters. When Sara entered the office, there was a crowd of students gathered around the bulletin board. Everyone was anxiously looking at the list of names and placements. Sara stood on her tiptoes, searching for her name. After a few moments, she found it. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw her name listed in third place. A rush of emotions flooded over her: pride, surprise, and joy. She couldn't believe it. She had actually placed in the competition. She had worked so hard, but to see the results in front of her eyes was more than she had expected. Third place. Wow, that's amazing, Sara. Emily exclaimed, hugging her tightly. Aisha joined in, both of them congratulating Sara for her success. You did it, they cheered. Sara's eyes filled with tears of happiness. I can't believe it, she whispered. I never thought I'd get this far. Thank you both for believing in me. The feeling of accomplishment was overwhelming. For so long, Sara had doubted herself, worried that she wasn't good enough or that her English wasn't strong enough. But now, standing there with her friends, she realized that her hard work had paid off in ways she hadn't even imagined. When Mr. Thompson found her, he congratulated her warmly. Sara, I'm so proud of you. You've grown so much throughout this journey. Winning third place is incredible, but what matters most is how far you've come. You should be very proud of yourself. I never thought I'd be able to do this, Sara admitted, still in awe. I was so nervous at the beginning, but I really pushed myself, and I'm so glad I did. Good things come to those who put in the effort, Mr. Thompson said with a smile. And remember, this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep growing, and you'll continue to surprise yourself. Sara smiled back, feeling more confident than ever. The competition had been a turning point in her journey. She had not only improved her English skills, but she had also gained a deeper belief in herself. It was no longer about avoiding failure or being perfect. It was about learning, trying, and embracing every challenge along the way. As the days went by, Sara noticed a shift in herself. She felt more comfortable speaking English, both in class and outside of school. She started chatting with tourists who passed through her town, practicing her English whenever she could. At the bakery, she even began using English to communicate with customers who didn't speak the local language. Each time she used her English skills, she felt a sense of accomplishment. Her fear of making mistakes had faded, replaced by a desire to improve further. One evening, after the results had been announced, Sara sat down with her family to share the news. Her parents beamed with pride, and Liam couldn't stop talking about how he'd always known she could do it. You were amazing, Sara. I'm going to work hard too, just like you." Her father patted her on the back. "This is just the beginning, Sara. You've proven to yourself that you can do anything you set your mind to. We're so proud of you." That night, as Sara sat in her room, she reflected on everything she had achieved. She thought about the early days of her journey, when English seemed like a mountain too high to climb. Now, she was standing on the other side, looking back at how far she had come. The competition had shown her that growth isn't always immediate, and that struggles are part of the process. But the most important lesson she had learned was that with hard work and persistence, anything was possible. The turning point had been more than just a competition. It had been a realization: Sara was capable of more than she had ever imagined. The prize she had earned wasn't just the third-place ribbon, it was the confidence and self-belief she now carried with her. The girl who had once been afraid to speak English had transformed into someone who could stand tall and proud, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. And with that newfound confidence, Sara knew her journey was far from over. The world was full of possibilities, and she was ready to face whatever came next. Part 5: Achieving Her Dreams. The weeks that followed the competition were filled with excitement and change. Sara's third-place finish had given her a new sense of purpose, and she felt ready to take on the next challenge. She had always dreamed of one day traveling to English-speaking countries, seeing the world, and meeting people from different cultures. Before, this had felt like an impossible dream. Now, it seemed within her reach. As Sara continued to improve her English, she started setting new goals. She spent more time studying advanced vocabulary, reading books in English that were slightly more difficult, and watching movies without subtitles to sharpen her listening skills. Every day, she felt herself getting closer to the fluency she had always wanted. One day, Mr. Thompson called Sara into his office after school. He smiled at her warmly. "Sara, I've been really impressed with your progress over the past few months. You've worked incredibly hard, and I think you're ready for a new challenge." Sara's heart raced. "What kind of challenge, Mr. Thompson?" "I want to recommend you for an international student exchange program," he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "It's an opportunity to study in an English-speaking country for a few months. You'll live with a host family, attend school, and fully immerse yourself in the language and culture. It's a big step, but I believe you're ready." Sara was stunned. The idea of living in another country, speaking English every day, was both thrilling and terrifying. She'd never imagined an opportunity like this could be available to her. "But I'm not sure if I'm ready," she said, feeling a knot form in her stomach. "I still have so much to learn." Mr. Thompson placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Sara, No one is ever truly ready for something this big. But you've already proven to yourself that you can rise to challenges. You've grown so much in such a short time, and I know this experience will take you even further. Plus, you won't be alone. You'll have support from your teachers and your host family. Sara took a deep breath. She had dreamed of traveling and experiencing the world, but this opportunity felt so big, so different. It would push her out of her comfort zone in ways she never expected. But perhaps that was exactly what she needed. The thought of fully immersing herself in English, of living in a new country and seeing how people in other parts of the world lived, was exciting beyond words. After a few days of thinking it over, Sara made the decision. She would apply for the program. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she had come so far. She was no longer the shy girl who was afraid to speak English. She was someone who had faced her fears and achieved more than she ever imagined. Now, it was time to take the next step. The application process was long and required a lot of paperwork, essays, and interviews. But Sara tackled each task with determination. She wrote about her family, her dreams, and why she wanted to be part of the exchange program. When the final interview came, she was nervous but confident. She used the skills she had worked so hard to develop, speaking clearly and passionately about her goals. When the interview ended, she felt a sense of pride in herself, knowing that no matter the outcome, she had done her very best. A few weeks later, Sara received the letter. As she opened it, her hands trembled with anticipation. The letter began with a formal greeting, and then the words that changed everything: "Congratulations. We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the International Student Exchange Program." Sara's heart soared. She had been accepted. Her dream of studying abroad was about to become a reality. She ran to her parents, holding the letter high. "I did it. I'm going to study in an English-speaking country." Her family erupted in joy, hugging her tightly. "We knew you could do it, Sara. We're so proud of you," her mother exclaimed, tears of happiness in her eyes. For the next few months, Sara prepared for her journey. She learned about the country she would be visiting, practiced cultural etiquette, and continued her English studies. She also made sure to spend as much time with her family as possible before leaving. Her parents, though sad to see her go, were incredibly supportive of her decision. The day of her departure arrived, and Sara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She was leaving behind the familiar, stepping into the unknown. But this was her dream, her opportunity to grow and experience the world in a way she had always wanted. She knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. When Sara arrived at the airport, she was greeted by her host family, who were warm and welcoming. They spoke in English with her, and even though Sara was still nervous, she felt comforted by their kindness. The first few days in the new country were a whirlwind of adjustments: new school, new people, new food, but Sara embraced each challenge. She had come a long way from the girl who once hesitated to speak English, and now she was living in an English-speaking environment, surrounded by people who were eager to help her learn and grow. At school, Sara found that her English had improved even more quickly than she expected. She participated in class discussions, made friends, and even joined the school's English club. Every day, she felt more confident in her abilities, and she began to see the world in a new light. The cultural differences, while sometimes surprising, became part of the adventure. She learned not only about the language but also about herself, her strength, her resilience, and her ability to adapt to new situations. One evening, after several weeks of living in her new country, Sara sat by the window of her host family's home, watching the sun set over the city. She thought about everything that had brought her here: her hard work, her fears, her dreams, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had achieved something she never thought possible, and now she was living her dream. Sara knew this experience would change her forever. Not only was she improving her English, but she was also discovering new parts of the world and new parts of herself. She had grown from a shy girl with a fear of speaking English to a confident young woman who was embracing every opportunity that came her way. Her dreams were no longer distant and unreachable. They were becoming a reality. And with every step she took, Sara knew that no matter where life took her next, she would have the strength and the courage to keep pushing forward, always reaching for new heights. Part 6: Reflection and Legacy. As Sara's time in the English-speaking country came to an end, she found herself reflecting on everything she had experienced. The months had flown by, filled with lessons, challenges, and growth. She had transformed in ways she hadn't imagined, not only improving her English but also discovering a new level of confidence and independence. It was hard to believe that just a year ago, she had been unsure about her abilities and scared of speaking English in front of others. Now, she was preparing to return home, with a wealth of experiences and a deeper understanding of herself. One evening, while sitting in her host family's living room, Sara opened her journal and began to write about her journey. She thought about how far she had come, from the small town where she had first started learning English, to the competition that had marked a turning point in her life, and now, to the international exchange program that had changed everything. She realized that her story wasn't just about learning a language, it was about embracing challenges, growing through struggles, and believing in herself even when the road seemed uncertain. In her journal, she wrote, "I never imagined how much my life would change when I decided to learn English. It started as a simple desire to understand my favorite books and movies, but it turned into something far more powerful. English became the key to discovering new opportunities, making new friends, and experiencing a world beyond my own. I learned that progress isn't always fast or easy, but that's what makes it so rewarding. Every small step forward, every mistake, every moment of doubt was part of the process that brought me here. And the best part? I'm not done yet. This journey is just beginning. As Sara prepared to return home, she reflected on her time in the school, with her host family, and in the community. She had not only gained a deep understanding of the English language but also a broader perspective of the world around her. The different cultures, traditions, and ways of life had taught her to appreciate diversity and the beauty of learning from others. She had become a global citizen, someone who was no longer limited by borders or language but was part of a much larger story. The friendships she had formed during her stay meant the world to her. Aisha, Emily, and her host family had all been there for her, supporting her through the ups and downs. They had been more than just friends or classmates, they were her partners in growth, encouraging her to embrace her dreams and to push beyond her comfort zone. When Sara returned home, her family greeted her with open arms. They were amazed by how much she had changed. Her father, who had always believed in her, saw the confidence in her eyes. Her mother, proud and emotional, noticed the way Sara carried herself with a quiet strength. Even Liam, her younger brother, looked up to her as a role model, eager to follow in her footsteps. Sara was eager to share her journey with them, to tell them about the places she had visited, the people she had met, and the lessons she had learned. She shared the stories of the challenges she faced, the mistakes she made, and the victories, big and small, that had led her to this point. Her time abroad had also deepened her love for the bakery and her family's business. She saw the bakery not just as a place of work but as a vital part of the community, a place where people came together to share stories over coffee and freshly baked bread. She knew now that her future was a combination of the two worlds she loved, the rich cultural experiences she had gained abroad and the warmth of home, her roots, and her family's legacy. As Sara's confidence grew, she began to dream bigger. She wanted to use her English skills to help others, just as Mr. Thompson had done for her. She thought about becoming an English teacher, or maybe even working for an international organization that helped connect people from different parts of the world. She realized that the journey she had started wasn't just about her own success, it was about sharing her experiences and helping others who were struggling in the same way she once had. Sara also realized that her story could inspire others. She began to speak at local schools, sharing her experiences with students who were learning English. She told them about the challenges she had faced, the mistakes she had made, and the successes she had achieved. Through her story, she encouraged them to keep going, to believe in their own potential, and to embrace the beauty of learning and growth. She told them that it was okay to be afraid, but it was more important to keep moving forward, one step at a time. In time, Sara's story became a source of inspiration for many. She was invited to speak at community events, where her message resonated with people of all ages. They saw in Sara not just a successful student of English but someone who had turned her fears into fuel for growth, who had taken an ordinary dream and turned it into something extraordinary. And so, Sara's legacy began to take shape. It wasn't just about her accomplishments, it was about the impact she had on others. The young girl who once struggled with her English now had the power to change lives. She had become a symbol of perseverance, determination, and the power of learning. Her journey had inspired others to dream bigger, to take risks, and to believe in themselves, no matter where they started or how difficult the path seemed. Looking back on everything she had accomplished, Sara realized that her greatest achievement wasn't the competition or the international exchange, it was the way she had transformed her life through learning, and the way she had shared that transformation with others. She had not only learned a new language, but she had also learned the value of perseverance, the strength of community, and the importance of helping others on their own journeys. As she stood at the front of a classroom one afternoon, speaking to a group of young students eager to learn English, Sara smiled to herself. She had come a long way. And as she looked into the faces of the students, she knew that her legacy, of dreaming big, overcoming challenges, and helping others, would continue to grow, long after she had moved on to her next adventure. Her journey wasn't over yet. There were still many more dreams to chase, more people to meet, and more lessons to learn. But now, with the wisdom of her experiences and the strength of her spirit, Sara was ready for whatever came next. And she knew that wherever life took her, her story would always be about more than just learning a language. It would be about the courage to dream, the power of persistence, and the unbreakable belief that anything was possible with hard work, dedication, and a little bit of faith in oneself.